The rain hammered against the windshield like 1,000 desperate fingers as Marcus Hayes pulled his beat-up Honda Civic into the executive parking lot of Horizon Tech. He shouldn't have been there, not at 9 p.m. on a Friday night, not in a space reserved for people who made in a month what he made in a year. But his daughter's voice still echoed in his mind from their phone call an hour ago. "Dad, I'm sorry, but the science fair project is due Monday, and we're completely out of poster board." Marcus was a maintenance technician at Horizon Tech, the kind of employee who became invisible the moment he finished mopping a floor or fixing a leaky faucet. He'd taken the overnight security shift that evening to earn extra money, trading his weekend for the chance to afford Emma's upcoming class trip. At 42, with graying temples and permanent exhaustion etched into the lines around his eyes, he'd long ago accepted that life wasn't about his dreams anymore, it was about making sure his 12-year-old daughter could still have hers. He'd just returned from the 24-hour craft store across town when he noticed her. Victoria Chen, CEO of Horizon Tech, stood alone under the building's overhang, her designer blazer darkened by rain, her phone pressed to her ear with increasing frustration. Even from a distance, Marcus could see the tension in her shoulders. He'd seen her before, of course, everyone had. She was a legend in the tech world, the youngest woman to take a company public in the industry's history. At 38, she'd transformed a struggling startup into a billion-dollar enterprise. Forbes had called her ruthless. Fortune had called her visionary. The employees called her the Ice Queen, though never to her face. Marcus hesitated, his hand on the gearshift. Getting involved with executive-level problems was a good way to lose the job he desperately needed. But then Victoria lowered her phone, and even through the rain and distance, he could see the defeat in her posture. She looked less like a powerful CEO and more like someone stranded and alone. Before he could talk himself out of it, Marcus rolled down his window. "Ms. Chen, do you need a ride?" She turned, her dark eyes sharp with suspicion. For a moment, he thought she'd ignore him entirely. Then another gust of wind sent rain sweeping under the overhang, and she seemed to calculate the odds of her driver arriving versus getting soaked. "I know you," she said, walking toward his car, each step deliberate despite her obvious discomfort. "You're with maintenance." "Yes, ma'am." Marcus Hayes. He reached across to unlock the passenger door, hastily sweeping Emma's school books and his daughter's forgotten hoodie into the backseat. "My shift just started, but I can take you wherever you need to go first." Victoria studied his face for a long moment, as if trying to solve a complex equation. Then, with a resigned sigh, she slid into the passenger seat, bringing with her the scent of expensive perfume and rain. "I live in Riverside Heights. My driver had a family emergency and," she stopped, as if offering explanations to a maintenance worker was beneath her station. "I would appreciate the ride." The first 10 minutes passed in uncomfortable silence. Marcus focused on navigating the rain-slicked streets while Victoria's fingers flew across her phone screen with practiced precision. He was acutely aware of every rattle in his aging car, every stain on the upholstery, the crack in the dashboard that he'd covered with duct tape. This woman probably spent more on a single pair of shoes than his car was worth. "I'm sorry about the mess," he finally said, unable to bear the silence. "My daughter, Emma, she's 12, treats my car like her personal locker." "You have a daughter?" It wasn't a question, but there was something different in Victoria's voice, a crack in the ice. "Yes, ma'am, just the two of us. Her mother passed away 4 years ago. Cancer." Victoria's fingers stilled on her phone. "I'm sorry." "Thank you." Marcus swallowed the familiar ache. "Emma's a good kid, smart as a whip, wants to be an engineer, actually. She's got this science fair project about sustainable energy that she's been working on for months. Hence the poster board." Victoria glanced at the craft store bag in the backseat. "Hence the poster board," Marcus agreed with a small smile. They'd just merged onto the highway when Marcus noticed Victoria's hand gripping her phone had begun to tremble. At first, he thought it was anger, he'd heard she had a legendary temper. But then he heard the sharp intake of breath, the barely suppressed sound that came before tears. "Ms. Chen, are you all right?" "I'm fine." Her voice was steel, but the trembling had spread to her shoulders. It's been a long day." Marcus had been around long enough to know when someone was lying about being fine. He'd said the same words himself countless times, usually while sitting alone in his car in the hospital parking lot, or later, in his daughter's room after she'd cried herself to sleep asking why mommy wasn't coming home. "You know," he said carefully, keeping his eyes on the road, my wife used to tell me that fine stood for freaked out, insecure, neurotic, and emotional. She said anytime someone said they were fine, they were really saying they were all four at once but didn't want to admit it. Victoria let out a sound that might have been a laugh or might have been a sob. Your wife sounds like she was wise. She was the wisest person I ever knew. Marcus smiled at the memory. She was also terrible at directions, couldn't cook to save her life, and sang off-key in the shower every morning. But she was the wisest person I ever knew. This time, Victoria definitely laughed, though it was watery. Today is my daughter's birthday, she said suddenly, the words tumbling out as if she'd been holding them back for too long. She's 7, and I missed it, again. I missed it because there was a board meeting that ran long, and then a crisis with our European distributors, and then my driver had to leave because his daughter was in an accident, and I told myself I'd just catch a car service, but every app is showing 30+ minute waits, and she stopped, pressing her fingers against her eyes. I just wanted to be there for her birthday. Marcus pulled onto the shoulder of the highway, put the car in park, and turned to face her. This was probably career suicide, but he couldn't help himself. Ms. Chen, you need to call her. Right now, it's too late, she'll be asleep by the time I get home. Then wake her up. Marcus's voice was gentle but firm. I'm telling you this as someone who knows, those moments don't come back. My Emma, she's only got one parent now, and I work 2 jobs to keep her in a good school and make sure she has what she needs. Sometimes I'm so tired I can barely see straight. Sometimes I miss her school plays or her soccer games because I'm pulling a double shift. And every single time, I promise myself I'll make it up to her. But you know what I learned? You can't make up for the moments you miss. You can only make sure you're there for the next one. Victoria stared at him, her carefully constructed armor completely stripped away. Tears rolled down her cheeks, smudging her immaculate makeup. What if she's angry with me? Then she's angry, but at least she'll know you tried. At least she'll know that the moment you could, you reached out. Marcus offered her a tissue from the box he kept in the console, a necessity when you had a preteen daughter. Kids don't need us to be perfect. They just need us to show up, even when we're late. For a long moment, Victoria just looked at the phone in her hand. Then she dialed. Marcus pretended to focus on the rain while she spoke in Mandarin to someone on the other end, her mother, he guessed. There was tension at first, then Victoria's voice cracked as she asked to speak to her daughter. When a sleepy child's voice came through the speaker, Victoria's entire demeanor transformed. Baby girl, she said, her voice thick with emotion. I'm so sorry mommy missed your party. But I want to hear all about it. What was your favorite part? Marcus pulled back onto the highway, giving her privacy within the small space of his car. He listened to Victoria laugh at her daughter's animated description of a unicorn cake, heard her promise to have a special mother-daughter day tomorrow, heard her say, I love you, 3 times before hanging up. Thank you, Victoria said quietly when the call ended. I've been so afraid of disappointing her that I've been avoiding the calls altogether. How stupid is that? Not stupid, human. Marcus took the exit toward Riverside Heights. We all did it. We're so scared of failing the people we love that sometimes we forget showing up imperfectly is better than not showing up at all. They rode in silence for a few more minutes, but it was a different kind of silence now, comfortable, almost companionable. You said you work 2 jobs? Victoria asked. Yes, ma'am, I do maintenance at Horizon Tech during the day, and I picked up some security shifts for extra money. Emma wants to go on this science trip to Washington, D.C., and I want to make sure she can go. What about your daughter's mother? Surely there was life insurance, Victoria stopped. I'm sorry, that's too personal. It's all right, there was some insurance, but most of it went to paying off her medical bills. Cancer treatment is expensive, even with insurance. And Sarah, she fought for 3 years. 3 years of surgeries and chemo and treatments. We spent everything trying to give her more time. Marcus's hands tightened on the steering wheel. I'd spend it all again for even one more day with her. But it left us starting over from scratch. You really loved her. I really did. Still do, I suppose. You don't stop loving someone just because they're gone. He glanced at Victoria. But you learn to keep living. You have to, especially when you've got a kid depending on you. They were entering Riverside Heights now, a neighborhood where the houses hid behind gates and the lawns were measured in acres rather than feet. Victoria directed him to a sprawling modern home that looked like something from an architecture magazine. But she didn't get out of the car immediately. Instead, she sat there, staring at her house with an expression Marcus couldn't quite read. I built all of this, she said quietly. The company, the success, the wealth. I did it because I wanted to give my daughter everything I never had. My parents immigrated here with nothing. They worked 16-hour days in a restaurant to put me through school. I told myself I'd make them proud, that I'd make sure my daughter never had to struggle like they did. She turned to Marcus, but somewhere along the way, I forgot what I was building it all for. I forgot that she doesn't need a mansion or a trust fund. She just needs her mother. It's not too late, Marcus said. You're still here, she's still here. That's all you need for a fresh start. Victoria reached for her purse, pulled out her wallet. Please, let me pay you for the ride and for your time. Marcus shook his head. I don't want your money, Ms. Chen. Just promise me you'll make that special day with your daughter happen. That's payment enough. She studied him for a long moment, then nodded. All right, but Marcus, thank you. Really, you didn't have to do any of this. Yes, I did, he said simply. Because that's what people do for each other. We show up. Marcus watched her walk to her door, shoulders straight again but somehow less burdened than before. Then he drove back to Horizon Tech to start his overnight shift, thinking about Emma asleep at his neighbor's house and how he'd have just enough time Sunday to help her finish her project before his next shift. He didn't expect to ever speak to Victoria Chen again. Monday morning, Marcus was repairing a leaking pipe in the break room when his supervisor found him. Hayes, you need to come with me. Ms. Chen wants to see you in her office. Marcus's stomach dropped. He'd been fired before, knew the signs. He'd overstepped, gotten too familiar with the CEO, and now he'd pay the price. He thought of Emma, of her school trip, of all the bills that wouldn't get paid if he lost this job. But when he was ushered into Victoria's corner office, a space he'd only ever seen from the doorway while emptying her trash, she wasn't alone. There was a woman in an HR suit and a man with kind eyes who introduced himself as the head of their employee development program. Please, sit, Victoria said, gesturing to the chair across from her desk. She looked different somehow, less severe. She was smiling. Marcus, I've been reviewing your employment file. You've been with us for 3 years, always on time, never a complaint. You're clearly intelligent and capable. Tell me, have you ever considered a career change? Marcus blinked. I'm not sure I understand, ma'am. I spoke to my daughter for 2 hours yesterday, Victoria said. We made pancakes for dinner, had a living room dance party, and stayed up past bedtime reading stories. It was the best evening I've had in months, maybe years. And it happened because you took the time to care about a stranger sitting in your passenger seat. Ms. Chen, I just gave you a ride. You did more than that. You reminded me what matters. And it got me thinking about how many talented people we might have in this company who are stuck in positions that don't utilize their full potential because they never got the right opportunities. She leaned forward. I want to offer you a place in our new accelerated development program. We'll provide training in your choice of several technical tracks, engineering, IT systems, project management. You'd continue to earn your current salary while you train, and once you complete the program, you'd move into a salaried position in your chosen field. Marcus felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. I don't understand. Why would you do this for me? Because talent and dedication shouldn't be wasted, and because the kind of wisdom you showed Friday night is exactly what we need more of in leadership positions at this company. Victoria smiled. Also, because I called my head of HR this weekend and asked how many of our employees are working multiple jobs. Do you know what she told me? 18%. Almost 1 in 5 of our people are working themselves to exhaustion because we're not paying them enough to live on. That changes now. The HR director spoke up. We're instituting a new minimum wage across all positions, expanding our educational benefits, and creating a fund to help employees facing financial hardship. Ms. Chen has made this her personal priority. I can't fix everything overnight, Victoria said, but I can start by making sure that people like you, people who show up and work hard and care about doing right by their families, don't have to choose between being there for their kids and keeping the lights on. Marcus felt his eyes burning. Ms. Chen, I don't know what to say. Say yes, take the training, show my daughter that her mom works with good people who deserve good opportunities. Victoria stood, extended her hand. What do you say, Marcus? He shook her hand, his own trembling slightly. Yes, absolutely yes, thank you. As he left her office, his mind reeling with possibilities, Victoria called out to him. "Marcus, Emma's science fair, when is it?" "Wednesday evening, 6 o'clock at her school. I'd like to attend, if that's alright. I've been thinking I need to get more involved with our company's community outreach, and supporting our employees' families seems like a good place to start." She paused. "Plus, I promised my daughter we'd do more things together. She's been asking about science experiments. Might be educational for both of us." Marcus felt his throat tighten. Emma would be thrilled. We both would. 6 months later, Marcus stood in Horizon Tech's new engineering division, where he'd just completed his first project as a junior systems engineer. Emma's science fair photo, where she'd won first place, sat on his desk next to a picture of Sarah. He was making enough now to work just one job, which meant he could actually attend Emma's soccer games and help with her homework and occasionally just be a dad instead of an exhausted ghost who passed through her life between shifts. Victoria had kept her promises. The company had changed, not overnight, but steadily, meaningfully. Wages had increased, benefits had expanded, and there was a new emphasis on work-life balance that came from the top down. She still worked hard, still demanded excellence, but she also left the office at reasonable hours and talked openly about making time for her daughter. She'd become not just a better leader but a more human one. She'd also become something Marcus never expected, a friend. They had lunch occasionally, swapping stories about their daughters and the challenges of single parenthood. She'd met Emma at several company family events, and the two had bonded over a shared love of science and terrible puns. On this particular evening, Victoria stopped by Marcus's desk on her way out. "Heading home early. Shocking, right?" She grinned. "Lily has a piano recital. I'm in the front row this time. You and Emma should come to the company picnic this weekend. There's going to be a science demonstration that I think she'd love." "We'll be there," Marcus promised. After she left, he sat for a moment, thinking about that rainy night 6 months ago. He'd just been trying to help someone who looked like they needed it. He'd never imagined that one simple act of kindness would change both their lives so completely. But maybe that was the point. Maybe the moments that matter most are the ones when we choose to show up for each other, even when it's inconvenient, even when we're tired, even when we're just driving someone home in the rain. Marcus packed up his laptop, grabbed his keys, and headed home to his daughter. Tomorrow he'd be back here, building a career he'd never dreamed possible. But tonight, he'd make dinner with Emma and help her with her homework and be grateful for every ordinary, precious moment. Because he'd learned something important from that rainy night. Life changes when we stop being invisible to each other. When we see each other's struggles and choose to care. When we remember that beneath the titles and the roles and the uniforms we wear, we're all just people trying to do right by the ones we love. And sometimes, all it takes to change everything is showing up and offering someone a ride home.